So I came across this question in a Facebook group, and it was such a good one that I wanted to answer it here on the podcast. And the question was this: how old were you when you started yoga? And did you have some sort of a background in dance or gymnastics or martial arts or any sort of athletic upbringing that you feel like helps to make the yoga postures easier for you to do? And a lot of people that were answering the question in the Facebook group, a lot of people had some of the same thoughts of, I've started late, I might be too old. Everybody else comes from like a ballet background or super graceful, and you're going to have to work so much harder than those that are in their youth, or those that maybe you are a little bit older, but you had that athletic upbringing. So if that sounds familiar, I want you to listen up. I'm going to share my story today because I did not grow up athletic. I've had a lot of major injuries. I didn't do dance. I didn't do gymnastics. And I didn't even start yoga until I was 33 years old. And later, at 45, I basically had to restart the asana practice of my yoga practice, which is the physical practice of yoga. I had to completely restart after a major injury. Child's pose was quite literally the hardest pose for me to do. So if you've ever felt like you were too old, you're too late, you're behind, this podcast episode is for you. So what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about my yoga origin story. I started at 33 years old. I was working on my PhD at the time, and I was so focused on school, and I was working full time and trying to take care of my home. I did not have young kids or anything, so that was certainly a big help. But my schedule was overpacked. And looking back, it was ridiculous. And I was still trying to have a social life, all this kind of stuff. And I went to the gym one day. I hadn't been to the gym in a while. One of my friends said, let's go to the gym and just get a workout in. She could tell I was stressed. And when I walked into the gym and saw her, she was like, "What is wrong with you?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And like, I just had like horrible dark circles and bags underneath my eyes. I was so stressed out. And she's, "Let's go do a yoga class." So the gym had a yoga class there. And so we went to that class, and I was just like, where has this been my whole life? Okay. So I broke my leg. Let's go back a little bit further here. I broke my leg in a car accident when I was 16 years old. I broke my femur and had to have a rod put in my leg. And like I said, I was a tall, lanky, skinny kid. And my doctor was like, "You need to put on some weight. You need to put on some fat. You need to put on some muscle. That's really going to help your recovery from this injury and from the surgery from the injury." And so when I was 17 years old, my gym teacher at the school that I was going to let me use the weight room after school because I was too young to join a gym. And like, I get that there's like the YMCA and all that kind of stuff, but that wasn't an option for me. So the gym teacher let me use the weight room after school. So I started lifting weights when I was 17 years old. So I lifted weights all through my 20s. I've been lifting weights most of my life, but I had zero flexibility, no flexibility at all. And I will say this, like, I was the kind of person in my 20s that I would go to the gym, lift weights, and then I would walk out into the parking lot and light up a cigarette. That's who I was. Okay. So I was going to the gym, but I wouldn't say I was like taking the lifestyle very seriously. And so when I started doing yoga at 33, it was really more like I viewed it as something that complemented my weightlifting routine. It was something that I could do in addition to some of the other things that I was doing. I was doing weightlifting. I was really getting like this inkling in my head that maybe I wanted to do a bodybuilding competition. I hadn't quite decided to do one yet, which I did do one. I started that at 35. But it was really, I viewed yoga as this complement to my fitness routine. And a lot of you might be thinking about adding yoga into your fitness routine as well. And that is what kept me coming back to yoga, was that I was going to the gym and working out. But then I was also starting to see the benefits of yoga in my flexibility, in my mobility. I was able to squat a little bit deeper. I was able to do some deeper lunges. But also it was like this massive stress relief for me. It was an hour that I could go to the yoga studio and I didn't have to think about all the crap going on, everything that was going on. It was an hour on the mat for me. Okay. So this was something that I never really thought about. Oh, I'm starting this later in life. It was something that I did. It was just part of my workout routine. Okay. And then I practiced yoga very regularly. And when I had my injury, I broke my tibia and fibula in a hiking accident then when I was 45. And I lost all of my progress, all of it, every single piece to it. Okay. I couldn't do child's pose. Anything with bending my knee was ridiculously hard. I had to basically start all over. And that was the most humbling experience that I've had in a very long time, where I would go to a yoga class and I would just want to scream, I can do this. I know how to do this. I'm just recovering from this injury. I know how to do this. And it was this, like, I had to let go of my ego, that it's okay to take a step back sometimes. It's what we have to do. All right. And so I want to talk about a couple of the things that I learned through that process about starting yoga later in life. And I'm using this as 45 years old. I basically had to start over. Okay. And I'm talking about the physical practice of yoga. I was feeling like I'm 45 years old. I'm in midlife. Is this just it now? Is this just it? I can't do wheel pose anymore. I can't do headstand anymore. I can't do the splits anymore. These are things that I just can't do anymore. And I felt like it was something like it's too late. I'm too late. And I was listening to a podcast and I cannot remember where I heard this. It might have been an audiobook. I know I had earbuds in my ears when I heard it. And I want to tell this to you too, that just because you're in midlife doesn't mean you can't get it back. You can get it back. It's going to take time. It's going to take consistency, and it might look different than what it did when you were 20. Okay. But you're not starting too late. It doesn't have a finish line. This is a lifelong practice. Yoga practice is a lifelong practice, and you're going to see progress, and you're going to have times where you're like, okay, I can't even find 5 minutes to take some deep breaths. Okay. And so think about this, that yoga does not have a finish line. It is something you can start at any point in life. And it's not just the physical practice of yoga. There's so much that goes on in your head, mentally, meditation, things like this that really helps you focus on mindfulness, being present, being aware, and things that you can take off the yoga mat, things that you can take with you to work, or when you're dealing with a challenging situation in your family or whatever it might be. You bring that mindfulness practice with you. Okay. And don't ever feel like you're too old, that yoga is going to adapt to you. It's not the other way around. Like, your practice is your practice. When you're doing a yoga class, maybe you're going to a yoga studio, maybe you're doing some online classes with me or somebody else, know that what you're looking at is that's what their body is experiencing. Okay. Your body is going to look different, and it's okay. It's totally okay. Your body has different injuries, different experiences. And so you will adapt yoga to you, not the other way around. Okay. And when we think about this, like, everybody else has some sort of athletic background. Maybe they've done gymnastics, ballet, martial arts, pick your thing. I would say a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people come to yoga at different points in life for different reasons. And it's not something that people start when they're 12 years old. It's the Instagram version of yoga is not what yoga is. I get that those types of posts, those reels, those videos of you doing really cool poses, those get the likes. That's what people like on social media, but that is not a yoga practice. It might be in that person's yoga practice, but it might not be in yours. And if it is in yours, it might look different from what on Instagram. Okay. I want to share this story about thinking about everybody has a background in something, and as a result, you can't start something. Okay. And so I used to do a lot of work with high school students, specifically young women in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And I really focused in on things like coding, IT, cybersecurity, and a little bit of aviation as well. And so I did a lot of mentoring, a lot of work. I've been on nonprofits, things like this. Okay. And one year, this was 2017, I will never, ever forget this, but I had a young woman who was probably 14 or 15 years old in a coding camp. And I was just walking around the room helping the students work through their exercises that they were doing in the coding exercises. And this girl was very visibly frustrated. And so I pulled her aside and just had a one-on-one chat with her. And what came out was she felt like everybody else in that room already knew how to code. They'd been doing it forever. And as a result, she was behind and she didn't know why she was there, and she's never going to get caught up. Okay. And even a girl who's 14 or 15 years old feels like she's too old to start this. Okay. So I wouldn't say it's like a normal thing to experience, but it is. It's there. And you start to compare yourself to other people. And social media certainly doesn't make that any easier. But just know that, you know what? Who cares if the person next to you has a background in yoga or has a background in ballet or gymnastics? Who cares? That's their practice. Set your ego aside and focus on your yoga practice. Okay. And I think it's totally okay to have goals. All right. There's the physical practice of yoga is fun. It's fun to see your body making progress, putting your body into unique shapes, coming into these poses to make these amazing shapes with your body, some things that you didn't think you could ever do. Okay. So I think it's okay to have those kinds of goals. I know there are other people that will say differently. I personally think it's okay. And I think for myself that I do have goals. I have certain poses that I work on, and I'll work on them for 6 months or a year or even longer. And like, for example, right now, I'm just now at 45 years old, I broke my leg, surgery, physical therapy, all the things. Now at 48, I'm just now getting back to starting practicing wheel pose. And I took some pictures and it's not quite where I used to be at all, but this is what's building resilience. It's building patience and it's building discipline. That I've set this goal for myself that I want to get back into wheel pose. I want to add wheel pose back into my yoga practice. And so as a result, I'm going to have to work on it. I have to work on it. And you're going to too. If you decide you want to work on name your yoga pose, you're going to have to work on it. It's not something you're going to sit down and do a workshop and nail it in an hour. You might, but you might have to spend a year on it. Okay. So this is what's going to really help you to build that resilience, coming back, the patience that it takes to come back, and the discipline and the consistency. Okay. So age or background does not disqualify you from yoga. I want to make that very clear. A lot of the people that I work with are over 30, over 35, over 40, even over 50, even into their 60s and 70s. People that have had injuries. Once you get a little bit later in life, you've got things. You've got injuries. Your body's doing the thing, right? You're going through menopause. You're going through the stuff, okay? And so it's a lot different than when you're 20 and you haven't had any injuries yet and, you know, your hormones are totally fine and that kind of thing. And it just looks a little bit different when you get a little bit older. That's all. It's a lifelong practice. Your age, your background, your experiences does not disqualify you from yoga one bit. This is your body. You take it at your pace. It's your yoga journey. And so what really matters here is the consistency, having a consistent yoga practice. It might be coming into a comfortable seated position. I'm sitting in a comfortable seated position on my couch right now, and I might place my hands gently on my knees and sit there for 10 minutes in the silence. All right. That can be part of your yoga practice. That is part of your yoga practice. Okay. So the consistency of having a yoga practice, the curiosity about learning more about yoga. Once you come into yoga, many people come to yoga as from the health and fitness side of things and doing a physical yoga practice. But now it's okay, let's start learning more about the other aspects of yoga, being curious about that. Okay. So if you are practicing yoga, I'm curious to know how old were you when you started practicing yoga. You can send me a DM on Instagram or share in the comments here. You just put it, if you're watching this on YouTube, just put it right in the comments. Let me know how old you were when you started yoga. If you haven't started yoga yet, I want to know what's holding you back. You might not feel comfortable sharing it publicly, but think to yourself, like, what is the thing that's holding you back? And go back and re-listen to this podcast episode because I'm sure I addressed it. Okay. So I want to share with you that I do have a free Stronger with Yoga program. This is a membership program. I have a free membership, and I'm working on the paid where you'll get a lot more different types of workshops and longer yoga practices. But I do have some free yoga flows on my YouTube channel. But if you want to watch them and participate in them without the ads, you can sign up for the free membership. It's Stronger with Yoga. And I've also got workshops in there and a nutrition guide in there and a workshop in there about nutrition. I've got some example healthy mindset reset. This is our mindfulness practice that we bring in our yoga practice. I've got a yoga kickstart guide in there for you. So a lot of really great resources for you. If you want to check it out, go to heathermonthly.com/free and you can sign up there. You'll get a username and a password to log in to the Stronger with Yoga, the free tiered membership program. So thank you for joining me today in this podcast episode. I hope you found it helpful. If you did find it helpful, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to my channel, and then share this with somebody who you think might find it helpful. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcasting platform, make sure to share this video or share this podcast episode with somebody who you think might find it helpful. So thank you. I'll talk to you all soon.